How in the world do we do that? How in the world do we keep our steady focus and keep moving forward despite of our successes, despite of our failures? Let me break it down. I got 3 things for you to do, okay? Hey guys, it's me, Sonya. I'm back again, and we still talking about focus. And I wanted to encourage you today. I wanted to get you focused on moving forward, okay? One of the things that I've learned is that to really be focused on moving forward, I gotta forget my past, all right? And I want you to learn the power in forgetting the past. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the past, all right? But before I do all that, let me introduce myself. Hey guys, my name is Sonya of SonjaW Coaching, where we help overwhelmed, multi-passionate women learn how to acknowledge, live, execute, and win their dreams. We're all about making sure that you make your dreams meet reality. Now, one key thing in really focusing and having a steady focus forward is forgetting the past. And I love how, I think it's Paul who said this in Philippians 13 and 14. I'm going to read it all. It says, "Brothers, I, for my part, do not think of myself as having yet gotten hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind me and straining forward toward what lies ahead, I keep pursuing the goal in order to win the prize offered by God's upward calling in Jesus Christ." Like, this is the main thing. Like, Paul was like, listen. I don't think I made it already. I don't think I already set it up. I'm not done yet. There's so much more. But how I keep focused, how I keep moving is that I forget my past and I keep straining towards that vision, that dream, that desire, the goal of telling everybody about Jesus, right? That was Paul. And I think we can take something from him in this. He understood that to truly move forward in the vision and the dreams and the values that we've established, we got to forget the past. We got to forget the good, the bad. We got to forget the ugly. We got to forget the successes. We can't dwell in our successes. We can't dwell in our failures. We have to move forward. Like, we have had mistakes. We've had all types of things happening in our lives. And sometimes we can get in a rut. Sometimes we can just start looking at, well, man, that happened to me yesterday, or that happened to me 10 years ago. And just continually think about it. And it stops us from moving forward. It's so funny. I was just thinking about this. Like, even in my own life, like, I've done lots of different things, but I seem to always remember my failures. Or when I do something really good, that is what I'll hold on to. I'm like, man, that was real good back then. I don't want to mess that up, so I'm not going to do nothing else, right? But Paul understood that if we really are going to get to where we're called to go, we got to forget our past. We can't sit there. We can't sit there because God has so much more for us. So, how in the world do we do that? How in the world do we keep our steady focus and keep moving forward despite of our successes, despite of our failures? Let me break it down. I got 3 things for you to do, okay? Number 1, close the door. It is time to take a moment, look at what happened behind us, and then close the door behind us. Close it. Close the door and don't look back. I talk about this in my quarterly quarterly reset my quarterly reset workbook, where I walk through 3 ways to 3 things that you should do every single quarter. And one of those things is to actually close the door, to take a moment and actually have like a post-mortem. We talk about this in project management, a post-mortem of whatever the project was, whatever the thing was that you were doing, right? Take a moment and ask yourself a couple of questions about it. You can ask yourself, well, what went well about this thing? What really went well? Regardless if you failed or if you succeeded, what went really well? Because even in failure, there is some success and there is something that you can learn. So, what went well? Then the next question is, what didn't go so well? Okay, where did you mess up? What did you forget to do? How could you have done better? Do that with your successes and with your failures. And then ask yourself, how do you feel about it? No, seriously. I know sometimes that can be real wishy-washy, but sometimes it's really key to hone in on your feelings about a matter. Because if you don't realize how you're feeling, those feelings can sit and fester and cause you to not move forward. Because maybe you're afraid. Maybe you were bitter about something. Bitterness can do a whole heap of stuff on a person's psyche. Or maybe you were just so like proud of yourself that you were like, man, I can't do anything better than that, right? All of these are feelings that you have to assess and then figure out how to deal with, okay? And once you figure out all of those things, also ask yourself, what could you have learned from this problem or this event or this experience? What can I learn from it? I asked a couple more questions in my quarterly reset, but that's the first thing that you can do to move forward. Then the next thing is to celebrate or mourn. Yes. Take a moment to celebrate the win or mourn that loss. Really acknowledge where you are and how you feel. You already figured out what you are or how you're feeling about it. Now it's time to acknowledge it and give it the appropriate space. It's so important to give your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings appropriate space to actually get over it, to actually learn from it and get it out of your system. Because I love how my therapist, yes, I'm in therapy because it's important. I love how my therapist talks about how emotions are indicators. They're indicators about how you feel about a matter or what's going on, right? And these indicators are important. They should cause you to explore what you're feeling inside, right? So take a moment, celebrate or mourn it. Take that moment, do it, right? Because if you don't do it, you may get stuck. And it's not the best thing to get stuck when God says that your latter days are going to be better than your former. When he says that he has so much greater before you than he has behind you, right? But if we get stuck behind, we're going to lose out on the things that God has called us to do. So take a moment, give your feelings, give your emotions the proper space, celebrate or mourn them. And then finally, move on. Like I talked about closing the door, move on. Don't just close the door and sit there. Don't just celebrate and mourn and just look at that door. Keep moving. Regardless of if it was good or bad, move forward. Because anything stagnant is going to fester. Think about it. You know what the difference between a swamp and a lake is? It's that the swamp is standing water. You ever, I don't know if you've grown up in like really tropical areas. I remember growing up going to Barbados a lot. My family's from Barbados, and they always used to have commercials about not allowing standing water anymore. Turn over old tires, empty out your trash cans. Because whenever you have standing water, all types of things start to grow, right? One of the deadly things that start to grow are mosquitoes, and they carry disease, right? We don't want to carry that disease in our hearts and in our lives. We got to move on. A lake has, even though it's a puddle, a bigger puddle of water, there's movement. The water is moving through that pond. And you want to be a pond. You want to be a river, a stream, anything with moving water. Because that's where new things can come. Where nutrients can come from wherever the water starts, right? Where there's constant refreshing and constant renewing, right? There's so much talk about rivers. You know, it reminds me of, is it Ezekiel? I think it's in Ezekiel where it talks about how there's a river that comes from the throne of God, and that on every side of that river, they talk about it in Revelations as well. It's a little bit different in Revelation, but they talk about how all of the life is in this river. Things are growing. There are trees on either side that are always bearing fruit, and that's because that water is moving, and it's moving from God's presence, right? It's moving out from God's presence. But when you have that swamp, like I said, it's just stagnant water that is cut off from God, cut off from his sweet presence, and just allowed to be festering in that area. We don't want to be that. Move on. Even if it's good, because a lot of good can turn out bad too, okay? So truly, I encourage you, do these 3 things. Close the door, celebrate or mourn, and move on, okay? Because when you do that, you're going to be able to stay focused on the things that God has called you to do. If you've been with me for a while, you already know I talk about life planning and how you establish your life principles. And in those, you have like that vision, that dream of where you would want your relationship with God, yourself, your family, friends, finances, all of those things, right? The only way that you're going to continue to get to that vision, get closer and closer to that vision, is if you keep moving. So I encourage you to stay focused, keep moving forward. All right? I hope this was helpful for you. I pray that this was something that is going to help you move in a direction towards where God has called you to go. Okay? So I pray, have an awesome day. Make sure that if this is something you liked, go ahead and like the video, share it with somebody, and subscribe. Subscribe so that I know that this is stuff that you want, right? So anyway, have an awesome day wherever you are.